guys, Alex with Bay Cities Construction here on the Bay Cities Construction Show. Today we're talking about my predictions for construction costs in 2022. Don't go anywhere. We got a really cool show. We got some data. Stay tuned for the data. Hey folks, welcome to the show. Alex of Bay Cities Construction. This is the construction show. We talk about all things construction. We got some new gear in the studio we're playing with today, and looking forward to sharing and improving your experience as a construction show viewer. Anyway, the pandemic, we're all hoping, we're all praying that it ends soon. Looks like we're going to get another wave. Anyhow, it's affected prices across the board. We got a little inflation situation with the crazy money printing and all of the other things that our government is trying to do to keep everybody from losing their, So we're going to talk a little bit about what my predictions are for construction costs for next year. I got a little data point from Small Business Trends. I'm also going to take some information and share it with you from the National Association of Home Builders, and my realtor, Robert Erickson, sold my house quite a few years ago in Silver Lake. He posted some really cool infographics about interest rates and projected home sales and stuff like that. So trying to make this interactive with you. If you guys are watching live right now, please post your questions. Brian is monitoring the feed right now, and he can pop up the questions, and we can deal with it and answer your questions live while we're on the show. Please do so. If you haven't done so already, make sure you comment, like, and subscribe. It tells the algorithms that we're relevant and you're getting good information. So appreciate it. Let's talk a little bit about. Let's look at this article that I have. So I'm going to share we're going to go over this article printed in November by Michael Gutta in the smallbusinesstrends.com website. So the article is titled "Home Builders Feel Effects of Inflation 2022." And we've definitely felt the inflation in 2021, right? Let me go over some quick numbers with you on some of the things that have manifested this year. Across the board, National Association of Home Builders says that construction costs rose 23%. That has been due to a couple different factors. One of them has been material shortages and then labor shortages. In the construction industry, for those of you that may or may not know this, construction workers are skilled labor, right? So we need time. Us Generation Xers need a little bit more time to train the millennials to start doing the work, and we have a significant amount of the old timers, the baby boomers that are retiring from the business. As they leave, the Gen Xers take over and run these companies, and then we need millennials to come in and do the actual work, right? So we're in a situation where you have like a lot of horrible things happen at the same time. We have a pandemic, we have a little massive stimulus. The pandemic caused or triggered the government to shut down, which caused, you could call it an economic crisis when you print almost the entire money supply in a year's time, a year and a half's time. So you have a lot of things, and then obviously our previous president was in a trade war with China, one of the major suppliers to the U.S. And this is not about politics; it's just the realities of the events that have been going on. So those events have an impact on price, and that's what we're going to talk about right now. So the National Association of Home Builders has stated that this whole tumultuous series of events have increased the cost of a new construction build, a new house build, to the tune of $36,000. Okay, that's an enormous amount. In this article here, it says that some lumber prices went up 316%. So call it a 3x increase. Now that's definitely, we saw that 100%. In some of the, not across the board, and lumber prices across the board did go up, but not a 3x. Some of them were 2x. I remember OSB sheeting, right? That's basically the plywood that's made out of particle board. that went from $27 to, at some point it was like $65, right? So it's almost a 2.5, 2x multiple. Definitely a significant amount. We priced out a home edition where lumber was a significant part of the cost, and from the beginning of the pandemic, or actually I guess the height of the pandemic, when the perfect storm hit, which was the frost over in Texas that affected the glue that they used to make the sheet goods. Anyway, at the height of those things, when we priced out this job, it was $97,000, I think, in lumber. And we priced out the job maybe about a month ago. Same job, because it hasn't been built yet, because everybody's freaked out about the cost. Well, the lumber costs came down almost $20,000, so that's pretty significant. Now, they're nowhere near pre-pandemic prices, but they have come down quite a bit. So there's definitely, the manufacturers are definitely creating more of the products that are in high demand. And it's just going to take a little bit more time to catch up. And you know, the construction boom has been largely fueled by low interest rates, people being at home, and you know, they've been considering that project for a long time. They now they can't stand it anymore. They've been looking at it because they've been at home, and you couple that with rising home prices, people have been able to refinance and take some money out. So those are all the dynamics that go into construction costs, right? The cost of housing is a major. The cost of housing and the cost of borrowing affect construction pricing, because it affects the demand. So the greater the demand for construction services, the higher the price goes. Now you couple an increase in demand for construction services in a time where you have limited access to the materials, and the materials that are available go up in price. That's just, you know, that's how it goes. That's how economics works, right? As prices go up, or as the scarcity of a product goes, so does its price, because demand until demand slows down. So anyhow, this is kind of the scenario that we're at right now. According to Mr. Gutta here, he talks about he actually highlighted this fact from the Homeowners Association. That's a little data point from them. So now some of the lumber prices here says lumber prices have retracted by 65%. That's not entirely accurate. That's not across the board. That could be on some of the items that like sheet goods with glue. Those could have gone down by that much, because they were the ones that rose the most when at the height of the deal. Another interesting little fact here is the paint shortage, highlighted by John Morkis from he's the CEO of Sherwin-Williams, and some of the key heavy metals and materials that go into the manufacturing of paint have been a little scarce and hard to get. So he attributes that to lower raw material availability. So he's talking about, or he's warning about paint prices actually increasing in the next year to come. So that until, or at least until the availability of materials goes back online. So ultimately, you know, there's kind of a mixed review. I'll give you my thoughts on it, on where I think we're going to be price wise for next year. But let's move on to this other website that I found some pretty good data on, and this data is from the National Association of Home Builders. So this is kind of your price increases, a little chart with some kind of cool price increases. This kind of has a little ratio of prices to demand. But let's look at the actual materials that were affected, right? These are the actual materials that are affected. So we got asphalt, we've got steel. The structural steel here, this is a major component in home additions and new construction, because these are your connectors, right? Like your Simpson connectors or your MyTech connectors. Windows, wood windows, and door frames, copper. And here's another another significant input is this plastic water pipe. Most of the new water pipes are not copper; they're actually this plastic. So like a PEX system. So all of here in this next chart, it's kind of pretty cool. It talks about it shows the increase in price as of July 2021. So you can see most of the inputs for new construction or home addition for that matter have gone up at least 30%. This is kind of your 30% line right here. So you can see everything. And obviously some have gone up more. Here's a little historical monthly price change. And so this is year over year over the same month. And here it talks about hot rolled bar steel structural shapes. So that's your connectors. So month over month, a 4% increase is pretty big. Now think about it. If on a $300,000 or $400,000 remodel, your lumber prices jump up 20%. You know, that's $10,000 here in California in particular. By the way, if you're watching from another part of the country, California prices are a little bit crazier than they are anywhere else, because we have a series of other things that affect our prices or cause our prices to be higher than anywhere else in the country. But that's for another show. Anyhow, what I'm saying here is if you're a contractor and you're locked into a price. Let's say the remodel's $500,000. And your lumber price just went up from $65,000 to $85,000, $90,000. You're gonna have a big problem. You know, you're gonna have a very significant problem in dealing with that cost increase. That's definitely something that you're gonna have to pass on to the consumer. And actually, there's a little bit of data here of how much of these increased costs have been passed on to the consumer. I think it was one of these, could have been actually on the other page. So in the beginning of the pandemic, contractors were trying to absorb some of the rising costs, right? But as the prices reached 30%, 40% increases, like in this chart here, it's really hard to absorb that price like that. I mean, you have to understand that you're building this project for somebody else, right? This isn't like our house. So we're not going to pay as an industry for out of our pockets for materials that are going to go into somebody's house, right? That especially if it's something that's out of our control. We wasn't that we the contractors didn't buy the materials in time or whatever. You normally buy materials just in time as you need them. So this is kind of where we're at right now with the material across the board. Let's talk a little bit about housing and how the housing is going to affect the construction costs next year. So this is a series of some quick little slides. Talk about sales. The sales. Actually, hold on. Let me go back in here. Let's start here with mortgage rates. And we got to give credit to Robert Erickson, by the way, Erickson Estates. He put together this thing and posted it on Facebook. If you haven't done so, we'll put a link to it when we're done with the show. Anyway, so his first slide is a historical overview of where interest rates have been if you're going to borrow money. You look here in the 70s, you got 8%, 8.8 interest. You got in the 90s that went up. And this occurred in as a result of the inflation of the 70s to try and keep the inflation under control. Prices, interest rate, borrowing costs went through the roof. The 90s, things kind of chilled a little bit. Things got better in the early 2000s, leading up to the crash of 2007. Interest rates stayed in the 4 to 5 through maybe the last few years. 2022, most people feel that interest rate's going to be at 3.5. Now the Fed is threatening for 2 or 3 rate hikes next year, but I don't think they're going to be very big. They're going to be small basis point hikes. Okay, so let's talk about the appreciation here. So all these different entities are coming up with their projections of home price appreciation, right? So that's how much as a percentage of the base value of the house, it's going to go up. Fannie and Freddie believe that home prices are going to appreciate 7% next year. Some of the more conservative organizations are saying 3, as low as 2.8. 2.8, I would argue, is stagnant. That would be almost like no real price increase. I just don't see that. If you average all of these data points together, the average forecast would be 5%. Now, that's nationwide, okay? So that doesn't necessarily, translate into California prices. So you got to keep that in mind. It's very plausible for California home prices to go up 7% next year. And this chart calls out the forecast of the volume of houses to be sold. So Freddie and Fannie are talking about 6 million houses sold, and our NAR is calling for, that's National Association of Realtors, calling for about the same, 6.8, and MBA is calling out for maybe a little bit in the high sixes, maybe even 7 million houses sold. So why is that important? The home pricing, two things are extremely important regarding the home's value. The cost to borrow money affects the amount of equity that existing home owners have, right? So for example, my parents, if my parents bought a house in the 80s, and they bought the house for $200,000 and they didn't borrow any money against it, and they're in LA, and maybe that house is worth $800,000 now, using it as an example. They have an equity of $600,000, right? Now, that house could need maintenance. It could have deferred maintenance, right? Because they've owned it for a long time. Some of those houses were built in the 70s. As the value of the house goes up, they have more equity to borrow against. When you couple that equity with a low cost of capital, right, which is the interest rate you pay on the loan, it increases the borrowing power of the homeowner, of the existing homeowner. That's one dynamic. The second dynamic is people that bought houses 5 years ago, let's say they only put down 10% down or 15% down. They didn't have a lot of equity to borrow against it. But if houses have been appreciated 7 and 10% compounded over the last 5 years, maybe they now have 40% equity or 35% equity. So they can take a small home improvement loan or equity line out of the house and use it for home repairs. The amount that they could borrow is based on the two things. It's based on how much the money is, what the interest rate is going to be on the money they borrow, and how much the amount of money they can borrow. So those two factors are critical in determining how much construction ends up happening, right? Because they'll use that money, the homeowners will use that money to do the repairs or improvements. Maybe they're going to add a barbecue area, do some landscape work, put a new roof on, remodel the kitchen, etc. There's a direct correlation with the purchasing power and the borrowing power of the existing homeowner and the amount of construction demand in a marketplace. So those two things are massive inputs into these prices. So if you were to ask me, hey Alex, what do you think construction prices are going to be next year? I would say to you that we may get an increase, a bump of 8 to 12% in prices, in construction pricing next year. If energy continues to rise, energy prices continue to rise. Remember, we're in the middle of winter here in Southern California, and gas prices are almost $5 a gallon. So if people are driving more in the summer and gas prices go over $5, maybe $5.50, that's definitely going to add, because remember, all of your materials have to be shipped. So the cost of shipping is definitely, it's an input cost to the construction, the totality of the construction cost, whether you realize it or not. And then So the price of energy, the input price of energy, is going to be an important factor. I think, with that said, that we'll have an 8 to 12% increase in construction costs. Now, do I believe that some of the material costs are going to go down? Absolutely. But in the construction industry, we have another dynamic in place, which is a shortage of labor. That's, everybody keeps talking about that. We don't have enough millennials going into the trades because millennials have been told that they need to go to college and borrow $200,000 to make a middle class income. That's just not true. Skilled labor in the construction industry will easily get you into the middle class. So anyway, that's a topic for another video, but it's an important part of the construction costs. It's going to take about 6 years. Just so you understand, in any trade, whether you're a painter, an electrician, a steel worker, welder, you need 5-6 years, maybe 7 years before you get to a journeyman level. Journeyman level means you're really good at that particular trade, and it takes about 7 years to get there. So think about it. Millennials have just really gotten into the workforce. Many of them are still in college. It's going to take probably another 3 or 4 years before we get a significant amount of them teed up to help bring labor rates down. Right, they're a very big part of the generation of our society. Population wise, so it's going to take a little bit of time for them to get into the industry, into the construction fields, and affect the labor rates for them to come down. So that's as far as 2022 goes, that's not going to happen in 2022. So I think that labor in the construction industry is still going to continue to rise next year. So we'll see. I'm not particularly happy about construction prices rising like that. I worry about it because it affects demand. You don't know what the top of what people are willing to pay is until you reach it. And it's hard to evaluate what that is. So you see in housing, some of the housing numbers, you see some price reductions. You haven't seen price reductions in a while. I kind of monitor our local areas here on the internet, what the home pricings are doing, and I've gotten several notifications over the last few months of housing. Some of the houses that were maybe way overpriced in the beginning coming down. So I'm not saying that home prices are coming down. I'm just saying that maybe the velocity of the sales is slowing down a little bit. So that affects, like as we talked about, that affects the whole cycle of the buying and selling, and ultimately the repairing and stuff. So, hey, I hope you guys have found this to be useful. Brian, do we have any questions? Anybody post any questions or comments on our deal? Oh, so we got a question. How busy are we for next year? Like how far out we are? That's a great question. I have heard, especially over the last 6 months, of some contractors quoting people 3 months, that they're 3 months out, 2 months out, before they can get to their project. Luckily we've added a lot of subs this year to our team, and we're able to start projects within. Normally we have a 2-week ramp up period where we get everything in line and get started. So for us, it's not so bad because of that kind of that pre-planning. We're trying to expand and grow, and adding qualified subs to our team is an important part of that. But I have heard people saying that, particularly ordering cabinets. I've heard some cabinet makers making people wait 4 months, something crazy stuff like that. So a lot of that has to do with their production capacity and also the availability of materials. But certainly we can get people cabinets much sooner than that and get them ramped up sooner than that. Any other questions?
Another one is there particularly hard to get them?
So, Brian, you guys can't hear Brian because we haven't mic'd him up yet, but Brian said the other question is, are there any particular material categories that are hard to get? There's definitely some tiles. Anything that's overseas that is imported, special order that is imported, has been difficult to ascertain. Now, the good news is that there's a lot of domestically produced stuff, and a lot of materials that are already here that were imported earlier before the crunch, and has been sitting in inventory for a while. So for the most part, we can find a replacement product for just about everything. So that's a good question, though. That's a question that has impacted many projects over the course of 2021. Got anything else? So the question is, what's been the impact on building and safety offices across the board? It's been significant. The building and safety offices had very huge challenges in the beginning of the pandemic, and some of them are just barely operational. So it's taken a long time for plans to get approved, even though they don't say that, but it's significant. It's gotten a lot better. The last 5 months have been better than the beginning of the year. The beginning of the year was a legitimate shit show. But expect delays. Plans will take about 3 to 4 months to get approved on a significant project. That's a good question. Anyway, I think that's it for our questions today. I want to thank you again for listening to the show, and we've got some really exciting topics. By the way, we're going to have some realtors. Our goal is to have some realtors this year and incorporate more different professionals that affect the construction industry to give you kind of a macro look on the things that impact the cost of your projects. Maybe we're trying to get some people in here from building and safety. That'd be kind of cool. So they can give us a kind of a behind the scenes deal on how their plans are being processed by the city and what the cities are doing to expedite the approval process. So that'd be kind of cool too. Anyway, if you haven't done so already, please like and subscribe, and please post your comments. It makes the show a lot more fun, and also tells the algorithm that our information is relevant and important to you. So appreciate that. My name is Alex with Bay Cities Construction, reminding you don't need a contractor. You need a team of pros, and you're going to need some pros in 2022.
The kitchen you want today from Bay Cities Construction in the Southern California and Los Angeles area. There is no better company who takes time out of the equation to get you a detailed plan of what your new kitchen will look like. Get your design plans done, your interior design plans done, and entire project scope done right now. Get your finished kitchen in 90 days or less. We are the best in the Los Angeles and Southern California area, and there's no need to shop anywhere else. Just get started with Bay Cities Construction. Go to baycitiesconstruction.com. That's baycitiesconstruction.com.
Okay, so this is my top secret offer. For those of you that still are tuned in, I'm going to give you $500 off on 10 hours with Wendy Design. If you're doing a kitchen or bathroom remodel, you want to do that, we charge $100 an hour. I'm going to give you a discount on that. $500 off. So if you've been sitting around wanting to do this, just call in and put in the secret code. 2022 secret code. 2022 secret code. You put that in and you'll get the $500 off for 10 hours of design with Wendy. By the way, we're going to do a show with Wendy. You're going to like that. We got a lot of really cool stuff coming up. If you haven't done so, please like and subscribe. Alex Rodriguez with Bay Cities Construction, reminding you don't need a contractor. You need a team of pros. My name's Alex Rodriguez, reminding you don't need a contract. You need a team of pros.